Hello to the good people and to the bad. Bad people need love too.
When it comes to positivity, we all need it.
Write about people whose names are familiar to us now, like Isaiah Thomas.
Those things always work when it comes to putting out your best self.
God has blessed you with a beautiful voice, Chris. Thank you very much for doing this.
Hello to the good people. Hello to the bad people, friends and enemies. And good afternoon, boom, shakalaka to you all. Chris Bates back with you as I bring you CBI-Chris Bates interviews. We do this every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Always wanting you to be well where you are. And once again, I thank you for coming on in. Once again, when I do programs like this, it's always fascinating to reconnect with people, because again, you give them an hour or so, they have time, and you only scratch the surface sometimes. So this brother I've loved from afar, always recommended people check out his work, and we always had in the last conversation, we know the same people we get a chance to meet until some while ago when I interviewed him the first time. And once again, just an extraordinary programmer and beyond, and I'm waiting to get this conversation about the things we were supposed to talk about. We delved into it the first time. This is why the reconnect is so important. CBI, Chris Bates interviews and reconnects with the one and only radio program extraordinaire, Mr. Maxx Myrick. How you doing, Max?
Good, man. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm telling you, it's like one of those things where, again, when you interview somebody, it's like, I wish I had more time. And then, time is valuable and everything else. So I thank you so much for coming back on the program so we can do it again, because the first time I think was really, really great.
Yeah, it went by fast. Yeah, thanks.
Let's see. So here's the thing. So a couple of things just off the bat that I realized you on social media. So a fellow programmer used to work here in Chicago. I believe he's still working or was programming out on the Bay Area. Elroy Smith, who programmed WGCI here back in the day and everything else. And there's this publicity picture of the both of you put out on during his birthday with you two shaking hands and looking like, competition, obviously, and each one of you had a boxing glove behind each other's back. I've seen before, that's my favorite picture of the both of you. How did that picture come about?
Well, we were, the companies were merging at that time, in the late 90s, basically year 2000. The company that we worked for got merged into a company that eventually became known as Clear Channel, and then ultimately became known as iHeart, what it is now. But prior to that, we were fierce competitors against each other.
Right.
In Chicago, he had GCI, and then we had V103, and then we also later put on 106 Jams. So we were giving them a run for their money. It was a good, healthy conversation. A competition, and we were fierce competitors. And so it was well known that we were fierce competitors. So we thought it was be funny to do a publicity photo with us shaking hands, but having the boxing glove behind our back at the same time. So that's where that came from.
It's a good picture. I told you, it's one of my favorites, and it really shows the competition, of course, during that time. Not saying it is now, and you know better than I. It's just the fact that, and once again, corporate's corporate. People always use the comment, "It is what it is." I always say, "It is what it is." It was what it was. When you take these corporations and you, like iHeart, that merged from Clear Channel, all these radio stations come together. They come together, but I think sometimes to a degree, the healthy competition is gone because now everybody's part of the same family under the same umbrella. You don't have the rugged individualism of the stations fighting for numbers. Now, if you're in the market that owns, say, 5 radio stations of a cluster, and you're all in the same building, that competition, it gets kind of watered down. And you as a programmer who's been through all that, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when they did that consolidation and allow these companies to buy up everything, it changed the dynamic. We used to sound much different than our competitor. That was our point of differentiation. And so that's what our audience responded to, and that's why we were number one most of the time. But now, you can go to any market, and every station sounds the same.
Right.
Because they're centrally programmed most of the time. They're centrally programmed by these corporate programmers or corporate vice presidents, and they have relationships with and they're kind of indebted to those relationships, and so that changes the diversity of programming, and I don't think it's good for the audience, and I don't think it's good for the music either, because you can only play so much music. You can only play so many commercials. So before you could play a lot more music, but now even the songs are shorter to try to get more songs in between the commercials, where it used to be about the music, about the format, about the audience. Now it's really about the community, but now it's driven by Wall Street. So they have these companies that bought these stations for these inflated prices. They have to service the debt on those stations, and and there's not a lot of room to make money. So and they're trying to figure out ways to eliminate the personalities completely. If they could AI it, they would. And I know there's some experiments going on with that. So yeah, it's a different day. Before I retired last November, I had been in it professionally for 47 years. I saw a lot of changes, come and go. So, I think the internet, at some point, there will be a tipping point in terms of content delivery on the internet, and these big telecommunications companies like Comcast, Verizon, they need spectrum to put their content for all the streaming going on. And where are they going to get it from? They're going to have to get it from AM and FM and television, because it'll be a while before all that happens, but that's going to happen in the future. And there'll be fewer personalities because everybody will be national.
Right.
There'll be bigger personalities. It's like going full circles, like turning everything upside down. It started out like that. And now here we are again. Everything just repeats itself like history. We're going through that in our country, and the world's going through that again right now.
Will you say the internet will one day be regulated by the FCC?
They're trying to figure it out. I mean, the reason that the FCC was created was because when radio first began, companies like AT&T had the monopoly on it. Not everybody had radio. It was a new thing, and it was all radios are huge, and people couldn't afford it. But once it became popular and they found out they could make money with it and found out that they could sell it, they created the FCC to regulate it. And then more radio stations. But then, eventually they ran out of bandwidth. There's only so many signals you can put in the air without them interfering with each other.
Right. They'll start to step on each other because it becomes so crowded with the bandwidth and everything else.
Yeah, they thought digital was going to solve that, but there's digital still having some problems. Most stations do have HD. Most transmitters are digital, but that's just getting that spectrum ready for what it's eventually going to be.
Let's see. So, with the lack of personality or decreasing personality through consolidation and things of that nature, taking away individuality of stations, is that the reason why podcasting took off the way it did?
Well, I think podcasting just remember now, when I got into this business in the 70s, in the mid 70s, it was just AM. And FM, nobody cared about. In fact, we didn't even have FM in our cars.
That's
the
true.
only time we could get FM was go to that big old piece of furniture in the living room or the front room, depending on where you're from. And that was it. That's the only way you could get FM. You had to have an FM converter to even hear FM. So where I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, which is right outside of Detroit, and so we were listening to CKLW out of Canada, and because they were so close to Detroit, a good percentage of their programming was black. So it was a nice mix. We got the best, rock and pop stuff, and we got all the black stuff. But in '68, one of our stations, the company that they used to own JLB in Detroit, Booth Broadcasting, they decided to give this guy who owned a record store an hour or two on Saturdays, and that's how FM began for us in our market. It was really in the early '70s where FM became a thing, like HUR, for example, in Washington, where they created Quiet Storm format. They were, the Washington Post gave that station to them for $1.
It's funny you mentioned about only AM. So when I was going to college at Columbia College, Chicago, my first car was a used car like most of us kids, and I got a 1979 Plymouth Volare.
Oh, no.
Sky blue, inside and out. Oh, you couldn't tell me nothing, Doc. It was like 2 miles an hour. Everybody could see me because I only did 2 miles an hour. So it was just one of those things where as long as it got me to school and back and all parts in between, it only had AM radio in it. And back in the day, I listened to WGCI AM, only time I could listen to, and then of course AM stations here, WLS and the rest, or AM 1000, things like that. But no, straight AM. So the history of the people that knows about radio, it does show growth, but at the same time, it could be the end to a degree because of the fact that what made radio great, as far as I was concerned, getting into radio as a talk show host, was listening to other stations. Even when I was a kid, for example, my family and myself would go to Orlando, Florida for a vacation, and we drive to all these various states and listening to all these various radio stations. And each station and each state, each city had its own personality. That's what made it great.
Yeah. That's right. And now the personalities, to finish your question, are going to come from the internet. And I'll give you a great example. And I'm really happy for them. And I'm really happy that they're finally acknowledging Dee Dee McGuire, because she's the only black woman I know, but one of the few women that's holding down a drive time slot in a major market. And she was syndicated too nationally. So, I forgot what I was talking about.
It was about personality radio. You mentioned about Dee Dee McGuire.
Yeah, Dee Dee McGuire. I forgot what I was going to say. It'll come back to me. I forgot.
That's all right. Hey, man, these things happen. Let me.
I know what I was going to tell you.
Okay, got it. Okay,
I got it. So what happened was, what I was thinking about was the Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah,
those guys. I've never heard their show on the radio ever.
Me neither.
I've only know them from. I was aware that they were on the air. Even when I lived in New York, I never listened to them. I listened to mostly because I was at work.
Yeah.
But I listened to BLS. But they're in the Radio Hall of Fame based off a podcast. I mean, and the impact that they've made, they deserve to be in there. But that's just an example of the impact of podcasting.
Amazing. Now, I've not heard this show either. I've only heard of it or see it in segment of videos, viral videos.
Yeah,
and that's it.
That's where they've built their. They've all gotten rich doing what they're doing. Taking those off the air comments, chopping them up, and turning it into a thing, kind of much like a Tiny Desk concert, basically a podcast.
Tiny Desk NPR you're referring to.
NPR that's been around for a long time, but in the last maybe 10 years, it picked up so much steam that now you have to be on that show.
Yeah.
And all of these things, Drink Champs, I like those guys. They tell some great stories, and then Maze and Cameron have their show, whatever that's called. That's fun. They're hilarious.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff out there, and to answer your question, yeah, that's where people, that's where people are going, because
No, you're right.
is being repetitious. There used to be a place for music discovery. You can't discover it. So all the new stuff, and so radio is getting to be like record companies. Record companies don't develop any artists; they just market them.
Yeah.
And radio's kind of going to radio's like saying, artists say, I got a new album come out, but it's really not an album. It's really, now at this point, it's a file, but they still call it an album. So, they'll probably still call it radio, but it won't be radio in the original sense.
No, you're right about that. Let's go out to the comment section and say good afternoon to Barbara Jean. How you doing, Barbara Jean? Thank you for being here. And let's see, say hello to Omar. How you doing, Omar? Say hello, Chris. Hello, Barbara Jean. And thank you for being here. Let's see. So, okay, so Fahim Munir had mentioned about, I don't know what this means. It's all over for Maxx Myrick. He is far behind the times. You want to address that?
I don't understand what he means. What do you mean? What does it mean? I'm retired. I'm all over. What is he talking about?
Yeah, well, Mr. Munir, you want to be more specific? Please do, because I don't know what that means either. And I want my guest to answer if he wants to, but he can elect not to or not. But give more information, a little bit more, not just a statement like that.
Yeah, I'd like to know what he's talking about myself. I don't know.
I know, right?
Because I'm definitely not talking about behind the times. I'm talking about the future, and the future is digital transmission.
Absolutely. And again, about personality-driven content, you're right. The programs you mentioned about the Breakfast Club and Drink Champs and things like that, you said Mason, they're hilarious. I mean, they really are hilarious. Even in the world of sports, where you see people like Gilbert Arenas, Gil's Arena, something like that, it's actually entertaining to hear these people go back and forth in there, talk about industry, like shop talk, and it's like, it's really, now that I think about it, like talk radio. And it's like you get into a conversation where it seems like you're there in there eavesdropping on these great conversations.
There's like anything else, there's evolution. And people have more options.
That's
so
true.
where radio used to be a bigger part of their life, now they have Spotify, they have YouTube, they have Apple, they have Google, they have all these different platforms where they can get content. Now television, they got to compete with television. So, your content, at the end of the day, it's about content.
Correct.
Everything else is just a delivery and distribution platform. And so if your content is compelling enough, and you hustle hard enough, to find an audience and build that audience. But, that's a lot of work. And, people may or may not want to do that. I mean, I was in the business for 47 years. It was not easy. It took me a long time to get where I eventually got. I had to put in the work. But, I was able to walk away, on my terms when I got ready to walk away and have a nice long career. But if you don't put in the work, it's not just because you're there. I mean, I talk to artists now. If the Rolling Stones can get on the internet and say, "Come see me at my concert," then the local artists ought to be able to get on the internet and promote their work as well. People are not just going to come just because you're there. They have too many options. Same thing with radio. Same thing with any other form of entertainment.
Well, you're absolutely correct. You mentioned about Spotify. As people can see, the emblem, I'm a strong Batman fan. I've been a Batman fan for years. So on Spotify, like you said before, what's old is new again. They went back to old time radio. They call it audio dramas that it's brand new, and current actors are on there having new content. As a matter of fact, referring back to the Batman thing, there's a series on Spotify called Batman Unburied. And the writer who wrote that made it clear that whoever plays Batman is going to be a black man. And in the first season, it was Winston Duke, who played M'Baku in the Black Panther movies. He played Batman, and now currently is Coleman Domingo. So just the fact that you're able to, again, listen to these great audio dramas, no matter what you like, and they're going back to what he did back in the day. That's what people did back in the day, the old time radio stories.
That's where it started. It was radio dramas and live bands.
Mm-hmm.
There were no records. There was no record industry.
Right.
So yeah, they're resetting the clock on broadcasting like they're trying to reset the country.
Well, speaking of the country, I've seen your comments about what's going on temperature-wise in our country. So what's your take on the current climate and number 47, the presidency, and how you feel about that?
I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible. It's cruel, but it's happening. And, you know, I do whatever I can to express my opinion and to get the word out. But, you know, if enough of us do it, maybe we can, you know, make something happen. They seem to be on the run right now. So we'll see. I don't know how long they can keep this up.
Well, as a programmer, I throw this situation to you. So ABC, for example, folded under Trump and won this lawsuit. So now Trump gets $12.5 million for his so-called Trump library. And then CBS folds under pressure from a lawsuit by Trump because he deemed that 60 Minutes was doing some editing to make Kamala Harris look smart, but she's already smart, and the president is not.
They always blame something on anybody but themselves. They never want to take any responsibility.
Exactly. So you're seeing these two networks, and CNN is doing the like, because I read an article about CNN saying that they should not comment on what the president was going through until the election.
I think all of those settlements or donations are part of a bigger thing. I think for Viacom, they have some kind of business deal going on that they need Trump to approve. This is part of a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Podcast they need, Disney is ABC. These are bigger. These are much bigger than it seems.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
The companies feel like that's a small price to pay to get what they want to get done. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree. And what's sad is that the same thing going back to CBS, they have to kiss his orange ass because they have to. The FCC has to approve a merger with CBS and Paramount.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Same thing with Comcast. Same thing. All those people that had to pay that extortion, they have some deals in the hopper. And you can get it done, but kiss my ring.
Yeah, exactly. Kiss the ring. Going back to what you said about Tiny Desk, I think Tiny Desk is fantastic. That's how I discovered and followed Doechii, for example. I saw her on Tiny Desk. One of my favorite rappers of all time, Rakim, was on Tiny Desk. What makes that platform so great? It's been around for a while, but through social media, I think it's not getting the attention it deserves.
Well, for one, it's new artists, being exposed. A lot of artists got exposed on that we wouldn't have seen because the gatekeepers at radio only really pay play stuff that they have an incentive to play. So that leaves a lot of people out. There's a lot of music out here all around the world. Like an American artist that can't get any love here, go overseas and be a superstar. I know a friend of mine who's a singer. He lives in Spain, but he's a superstar in Poland. His name is Kenny Wellesley. He calls himself the soulful nerd. He's amazing. He's like kind of like a Rashawn Patterson, got that kind of vibe going and range, but he's huge over there. And so artists they kind of you got to look beyond the local radio station. You got to there's a whole world out here.
Yes.
You got to get out there and see what it is, because the paradigm is shifted. It's not even shifting; it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's like it gone into the abyss, and nothing wrong with embracing technology, embracing what's new. I think sometimes certain people do not want to embrace the current and the future because they are settled in how they are. You're kind of like in your own wheelhouse, your own protected space. You don't want to go outside the box because you're used to that type of mentality. But I think at the same time,
You have to
since
evolve.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You have to evolve. You have to
Yes.
evolve.
No, you're right, because the future is now when you think about it.
Yeah, it's now, and I'm curious to find out how AI is going to work with this, because it's going to work with this. I don't know how, but yet I don't understand it all. But I'm at 67, I'm still trying to learn. I just keep learning and keep growing. That's why I'm able to stay active. I retired, but I'm still got my fingers in this and that because I want to stay active, because I'm just eternally curious, and maybe there's something else I can create that I haven't created yet. I've created a lot of stuff, but I'm always looking for something new. Something new. I want to know.
Nothing wrong with it. I think nowadays, Max, a lot of people don't really retire. They may step away,
Yeah,
but not retire. I mean, not the good old days when you retire, you got the gold watch, if it wasn't gold plated and stuff like that. No, those days are long gone. But I think nowadays, some people can't afford to retire because I think
it's tough.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. I'm saying it's tough. You can't just live off of Social Security. That ain't gonna get it. I mean, you could,
right?
Depending on what how you used to living. But for me, I need a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
I keep trying to stay busy, but I just I don't want to be no 70-year-old dude programming a radio station. I got there's other stuff to do. There's like a whole world. I just got back from France and Spain and Doha, and listening and looking and checking, and there's a whole thing going on over there that hasn't gotten here yet. And so I'm interested in that, and how you bring that together, because the world gets smaller. You're not really a local artist anymore. You're a global artist. You got to think that way with everything. With our industry as well. I mean,
you think about going to France. Like, what was that like?
Oh, I mean, it was cool. The people are very nice. I was in a small village in the south of France. A friend of mine named Vinx. I don't know if you're familiar with Vinx. Vinx used to be on A&M. He was a singer, songwriter, percussionist. He toured with Sting for a number of years. Amazing guy, and he holds these artist workshops, artist summits, artist retreats, and people come from all over the world. Maybe 10, 12 people from all different parts of the globe, and they spend a week learning and collaborating. Most of them are like recording artists in their own right, and they collaborate with other people from around the world. They write, and then they perform. And then you connect with people. Now I got a whole new group of people I can connect with, that are in different places in the globe. So it's a beautiful thing. He's got another one coming up in November. I think the second week of November. So if anybody's interested, they can just go to his Facebook page, Vinx, and VINX, and you can find out about it. But it's kind of cool. That's what's going on. There's people all over the world who are just talented, and we can't, nobody knows about them. So I'm interested in that. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. And the key word you said about evolving, evolution, and allowing yourself to, and that's the main thing.
Girl, some people, but I'm not judging people. Some people are comfortable in their safe space.
True.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm just not one of those comfortable people. I never get comfortable. I'm always like, what's you know, but it's okay. I mean, you know, it's okay if that's, you know, that's what you want to do. You're happy, be happy. Life's too short not to be happy.
Got that right.
You know, I almost died 3 times in the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay, back up. You almost died 3 times the last 3 or 4 years? Okay, gotta tell it what happened.
I had stomach cancer, and I was at NIH for about 40 days, and they caught it, and then they had to go back in, and I had to learn how to walk again. Then I clocked out briefly, but I came back because, you know, I got stuff to do.
Got more work to do.
Yes, I came back, but you know, so when you go through those experiences, you look at life as changes, and you don't want to waste time on stupid stuff. You want to live life. So that's why I retired, because I want to do more.
Man,
you know, you just have to keep evolving. The reason I'm still around doing this, and bits and pieces of it, is because you keep evolving. You know, I like to surround myself with young people, because they, you know, they keep me up on all the terms.
Yeah.
all the music, all the, you know, and although I look crazy trying to use some of those terms, I know what they're talking about.
Well, what terms do they use? You want to share some slang with us?
No, I mean, you know, the youngins, you know, all the stuff that people say on, you know, on site, on God, you know,
on God,
all the stuff, all the stuff.
Yeah.
It's all, you know, all our patois. You know, we keep reinventing our patois because they keep stealing it.
True.
You know? I remember when they had that term bling?
Yeah.
And it had been in our community for a long time. And then some other people got a hold of it. And then that was their favorite word, bling, bling. The guy came up to me, hey, bling, bling. And I was looking at him like, he's like, you don't know what bling is? I said, no, I did, but no, what is that?
Right.
And he looked like stunned, like, oh, I thought I was on top of it.
Oh, hell, my guest is Maxx Myrick. You have any comments or questions, please call in at 312-597-2106. Again, 312-597-2106. Or you continue to make comments in the comment section there for my guest. One thing I want to run by you, of course, you living in the D.C. area, is Ben's Chili Bowl. Now, I've seen it. I hear people rave about it. I would love to get some myself. Please tell us the legacy behind that, because everybody I know from the area always talked about Ben's Chili Bowl.
Yeah, what about it? Hello?
Yeah, did you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What'd you say about Ben's Chili Bowl?
Oh, yeah, I was talking about, Ben's Chili Bowl. About everybody I know raves about it and has been there, and it's an iconic place. Could you tell us more about that?
It's a DC landmark. You know, every city has had its version of 125th Street, Chicago, Brownsville. You know, Cottage Grove. Well, Chicago had a lot of black communities where there was black businesses. But every city had their version of that. And in DC, one of those streets was U Street. That's where they had the theaters and everything. And then there was a restaurant that opened there, a Chili Bowl, a little counter with a counter and some tables, small place. And it opened in 1958. And then in 1968, I believe, I got to have this story correctly, and if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. But when they had the riots in Washington, D.C., they burned down everything else, but they didn't burn that one down because it was black.
I like that.
And so it's still there. In fact, was it yesterday? No, not yesterday. Today is Wednesday. Tuesday, they closed for remodeling until November, so they'll open up back in November. But they have this chili. They have something DC has called Hot Links, which is kind of not Hot Links, half smokes. It's kind of like a sausage. It's kind of like Hot Links, but not as hot. More like a spicy hot dog.
Right.
It's that kind of food. It's like a little. I don't know what they're getting ready to turn it into,
Yeah.
but and so it's a Washington D.C. landmark that's been around since 1958, and so everybody who comes to D.C. they say you got to go to chili. And like you go to Chicago, everybody wants to take you to Garrett's or Al's Number One,
Right.
or any number of pizza places.
Yes.
It's that kind of thing, but the black version of it.
Oh, that's cool. That's all right. Because
I was just there a couple days ago. Yeah.
Oh yeah, cause I saw the picture that you had up there on your Facebook. That was pretty cool. So yeah, everybody got their landmark. It's always nice because I think again, when you look at, like you said before, you go to different cities, different places. Everybody has a staple of food. The food defines the city, and it's always various people and various institutions that you get a chance to be a part of. And yeah, since I can remember, anybody I know that lived in that area always talked about Ben's Chili Bowl, like once again being the staple, like except for Chicago and LA and New York. I remember my good friend and guru Lee Michaels, who a program out in California, was telling me about the Fat Burger out there back in the day in LA. So now you see Fat Burger. We have one now recently. At one point, Kanye West owned one before he lost his mind. He had one here, and then now it's a new ownership. But that food also is the staple of where you go from place to place.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. Go back to the comment section real quick. Okay. Hey, what's up, Oscar Porter? What's up, O? He said, come back to Chicago, Max. Just great black radio information and knowledge is everything.
That's my man, OP. He's a twin brother of the late
Art Porter.
Art Porter was he's one of the greatest guys ever.
He was. He was. God rest his soul.
Yeah, he was our producer at V103 in Chicago.
For the Mod Squad.
For the Mod Squad. He knew everybody. I mean, he was amazing. Everybody loved AP. I was so sad when he passed.
Same here.
Yeah, he was a good kid.
Yeah.
Well, and his brother Oscar's a good kid too. He's in the sports world.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get on the show. We keep missing each other, but you still out there, man? Please reach out to me. I can have you on the program because we always talked about him coming on and always about timing. And I remember going back to AP. Art was the guy who, when my wife passed away, he reached out to me when I was working at Urban Broadcast Media and said, "Do you have anybody filling in for you?" I said, "No, I don't." And he was like, "Well, tell you what, let me contact your radio family and put this show together." So he was the one who reached out to me and put together a show with Bonnie DeShawn, Tony Schofield, and other radio dignitaries, and they filled in for me during that time when I was on sabbatical because I'm still, grieving for my wife. But I never forgot that. And then another exchange I had with AP real quick was WVON was having a radiothon for DuSable Museum, and he asked me would I be a part of it for going on the show, being paired up with other radio people to raise money for DuSable. And I was like, and he listened to people like Richard Steele and Emery McKendall and people like that. Deborah now Devore Crable, she changed her name, and other people going to be on there. I was like, why me? And he said, why not you? You're the first person I called.
Right.
And Art was that guy. Art, I loved Art because he was the real deal Holyfield. I spoke at his funeral, and that broke my heart too. I mean, he was an amazing cat.
Yeah, he was. Man, AP. They just had birthdays in the last few weeks. I saw that on Facebook. Oscar. I thought about our AP. Yeah, we traveled all over the world together with the station, and he even got us. He even got the Mod Squad into the White House.
I remember that. Yes,
a couple times. I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he was something else. I miss him.
Yeah, great stuff.
I mean, those almost a decade in Chicago. There's just no place like it. No place like it.
Yeah, it's special.
People, it's you have to live there to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, like including yourself, everybody talks. I'm born and bred here, so everybody I talk to that is not from here, worked here, and
Yeah.
has moved on or have moved. They said that no matter where they worked at, it was
Yeah.
something special about being here in Chicago.
Yep, that's true. And my son and my granddaughter, my daughter-in-law live there.
Mm-hmm.
A sister and her husband and nephew, they live a little further out in Oswego.
Yes.
I have family and friends in Chicago. It's been part of my life since I was, a kid. We used to come up on Sundays, hit Halstead Street, and do a little shopping. Get a couple pork chop sandwiches and
Nice.
a pop, and head on back.
That's all right. That's good eating right there. Back to comment section. Let's see. I do Lisa London says, good afternoon, Base Nation. Base Nation. Good afternoon, Mr. Myrick. Great conversation. Thank you, Lisa, for saying that. Also, we go on. Hey, how you doing, Claire? Says, hey, Chris. And hey there, Max. Kenneth Smith. And I reminisced about you a lot. Hope you are doing well. Hope to see you at the reunion, Chris Base. Here's the thing about, I mentioned before on our last time we met. That's when we spoke on the program. Ken Smith and I went to high school and college together. We met, we were 13.
Really?
And we go way back. We both got in the radio. It was the only dude I know that liked radio outside of myself. And that's how we bonded, outside of other things. And Ken Smith wanted to do great radio. He worked with Mancow, becoming Al Roker Jr. And just probably, and I mean sincerely, the most quick-witted person, even at 13 to now, that I ever met in my entire life.
Well, yeah. So he's such a great guy. We used to have so much fun. Him and his wife Claire. They used to travel with us, and then he was a part of the Mon Squad too.
Yes, he was.
They had shenanigans going on each and every day, and they always included Ken in it. And would always try to trip him up when he was given the traffic or weather or something, and he was flawless. He couldn't shake him.
He was right.
He would do crazy stuff. But it was fun.
He would keep it going. I'm Ken Smith for Show Traffic on V103. I remember that.
They'd be holding papers in front of his face. It was just chaos in there.
Good stuff. Great memories, man. Let's see. O has something to say. Oscar. He says, thanks for the love, Max and Chris. Oh, man, nothing but love for you, doctor. Nothing.
That's my man.
Absolutely. And Oscar, I'll reach out to you or vice versa. Got to have in the program, man. He's about a knowledgeable brother next to his brother Art. Man, always, I'm telling you, man, I was like, I got to get you on the program. So whenever you have time, let's make that happen. So as we remember this, like, see, that type of, once again, the magic of radio is always pure. And anytime you get a chance to, once again, like we just did now, reminiscing about how it was and how eclectic and how different it was. That type of radio, I think, is gone, unfortunately, but it does live out through the conversation we said earlier about personality. But in that moment, in that time, when you were programming and the programs that you were there for, and to see it unfold and to see it blossom, that's when you know you're onto something that's fantastic.
Yeah. Look at those, the people first of all, black radio got its start in Chicago. It's got a long history in Chicago with not Al Benson, but the guy that came before him.
Jack L. Cooper.
Jack Cooper, yeah.
Yeah.
So it has a long history of personality radio.
Mm-hmm.
I love that city.
Man, it is more than fantastic. In our last conversation, Max, you had touched on something that I really wanted to get deep into, do a deep dive with. When you mentioned about the late, great Louis Armstrong. And you had said that Louis Armstrong's musicality became the blueprint for any other artist after him. And so I remember my connect to, just as a fan of Louis Armstrong, since I was a child, he fascinated me because he was different. I never saw anybody that looked and sounded like him, just his appearance, voice, and musicality. And when I would get a hold of anything I could read about the man, watch documentaries on PBS and beyond, he was just unique. And just the fact that he was able to go into a world, obviously racist, during that time, but was able to navigate and make himself one of the most premier artists of all time.
of all time. I mean, even my granddaughter knows who Louis Armstrong is.
Mm,
She was just born 3 years ago.
amazing.
You know what I mean? That's the kind of impact he had on the United States and the world. Because all the music that came out of him, everything that came after him came out of him. Scatting, singing sideways on a melody, the runs, the improvisation, the blues within the groove, all of that came out of Louis Armstrong. When you think about it, you start hearing artists. I know so much music because I did jazz, at XM for 8-9 years and worked with Marcellus and them. So I picked up a whole new vocabulary of music.
Yes.
And I can hear all of it. When I hear an artist, like when I hear Billie Holiday, I can hear Louis Armstrong.
That's right.
And in fact, Missy Elliott knows a lot of music because she used I don't know what year, probably a 1920 or 1930s version of Louis Armstrong's Starlight on a song by Tweet. And the only reason I knew was because it starts with the song, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's Louis Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then here comes Tweet. I was like, wow, I thought that was pretty dope that she was able to bring those things together.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for. I think that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to be next. Bring collaborations in styles, because the Afrobeat is huge around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
So international. If you're not looking at the globe, you're missing out.
Yeah. As you go beyond the 4-block radius of your neighborhood, you go past inside your own home, if you allow yourself to, and that's the great thing about challenging oneself. And sometimes it's baby steps along the way, but I think eventually you'll get there if you want to allow yourself to get there. Let me go back to the comment section real quick. There's a Lamont. He says, "Greetings, Chris. Greetings to you, brother. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Another broadcast in his own right. Does a fantastic show as well." When you mentioned again about Louis Armstrong, I remember when he was doing, I mentioned on the other program as well, the song "Black and Blue" that he did was actually a protest song.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, just the lyrics alone, if you just listen to the lyrics and have it in front of you and go along with it in real time, if you just go to YouTube or whatever, get the lyrics, it is very specifically deep.
Yeah.
And the part that always makes me tear up was when he says, "The only sin is in my skin.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do to be so black and blue?" It gets me up all the time, Doc.
Oh yeah, and he meant that.
Yeah.
You ever see him sing it, like a video? Those old videos.
Yes.
He means that. He means every single word of that. Where he came from, and even when he got to the top of the world, here we go. They wanted him to make concessions. They were like, "Well, you got all this,
right?"
And he was like, "Well, yeah, I earned it." And no, I'm not participating in that.
That's
and
true.
He took a stand. I don't see the artists taking a stand now. I'm really disappointed. But they sign these deals, and they get this money. And part of those deals, I think, and I don't know, I've never signed a 360 deal.
Right.
But I think there probably are covenants in there where they are not allowed to do anything. I forgot what they call that. It's a legal term. But do anything controversial.
Okay.
Or they have to get the money back. And who's doing that?
Jeez.
So that's why you see a lot of people being quiet, and the ones that could do it, that have the what I call fuck you money.
Yeah.
There's some forces out here who are, we've seen some people go through some things. When they want to turn on you, if you give them ammunition, they'll use it.
Max, it's sad but true. And I think that when you look at how people are just trying to make ends meet and trying to get a name for themselves, it's not easy. And especially like you said before about how people take the fuck you money, and it gets in the way of progress because it bastardizes the content. It bastardizes the fact that people out here trying to do what's true, trying to do what's right. Now, you want to sell your soul, that's your own business. But I think when it gets in the way of other people's
that's the
dynamic of trying to get there, it keeps blocking it.
Yep, that's the problem. And it's done by design. Part of it's greed. Part of it is some nefarious shit going on here.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion, though. You know, what do I know?
You know enough, Doc. I know. Look, man, I'll be on your team any day of the week, man. The state of, for example, music when you come from a certain age and era. I remember, for example, I was born in late 60s. I was born in 1967, so the 70s and 80s was my era growing up. And by the time, I love the 70s. So by the time the 80s came along, for me as a teenager and young person, I saw this influx of more British people coming in and more pop. And it seemed like there was a lot of, like from Michael Jackson to Adam Ant to Sting to anybody else. So it's like a mixture of all these different artists. And so that to me was a great boom. Because I always heard about the 60s with the Beatles and the nice with the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Now in the 80s, like a whole different thing at that time.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing. You know, every generation we have this cultural exchange. The music just keeps resetting at the blues.
Right.
It goes around. It takes about 25, 30 years. And then something's always bubbling underneath that. And it gets exploited. And then we don't recognize it anymore after, you know. And then we got our own shit. So right now, the blues is reasserting itself in the form of what they're now calling Southern Soul. But it's the blues. So it's reasserting itself. One of the biggest songs in the country is Boots on the Ground.
I'm so tired of that goddamn song, man. I can't take it.
But look at the song.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and look how big it is. You had the first lady in the United States. You had Beyonce. I mean, you know, that song is huge.
Why didn't tell me? It was all over the damn place. Everybody got their fans out and everything else. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was a movement.
It's a movement. And it is not going anywhere. But look how it's bringing people together.
Yeah.
That's what music's supposed to do.
Good night. Bowel movement, but I understand how it's.
You know, some songs is, you know, they're like that. You can play the electric slide right now.
Yep.
People will still get out there.
That's
certain
true.
songs that have that, you know, and each region has their version of the line dances. So now that would be a great documentary, just going around getting the various line dancers.
That might work. You might be onto something. Real quick, back to comments. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. What's up, Sick Diggy? My man from Norway. How you doing, Sick? Thank you for being here as always. Deeply appreciate it. Let's see. So he's saying hello to Barbara Jean there. So yeah, it's once again evolution and popularity, and I remember the Boots on the Ground stuff did a segment on Good Morning America.
Yep.
During that time. So Robin got her fan out and was storm all over the damn place.
Yeah. There you go. So that's it. That's like Stax Records starting to, you know, like Stax came in the late in the 70s and kind of late 60s and 70s and kind of turned everything around, and everybody kind of went in that direction for a while. Al Green, they gave us Al Green, they gave us that whole Otis Redding. Well, it's the same, you know. One of the bigger country songs was just a remixed version of I'd Rather Go Blind. That's all that Tennessee Whiskey is. It's the same song with different lyrics.
It's always a remix. So we talk about like music history. You know this too, Max. Like the evolution of Elvis Presley. So Elvis Presley pretty much first of all, Hound Dog was really recorded by Big Mama Thornton first, and then of course passed on down the road, and Elvis did it. And then come to find out that Elvis had a black instructor that was writing someone like Don't Be Cruel.
Bumps Blackwell.
What's his name again?
Bumps Blackwell.
Thank you. Yeah.
He wrote all those songs, and then the style that Elvis was copying was another singer who Elvis sounds like. That once Elvis started singing, they kind of pushed him and Jackie Wilson down.
Yeah,
because they all had that same sound.
they did.
Yeah.
Yep. Man, Jackie Wilson, another person who was dynamic, could sing and dance.
Mm-hmm. That's a movie that needs to be told too.
I agree. Jackie Wilson. Who would you get to play Jackie Wilson?
Who would I get to play Jackie Wilson?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I need you to think about that one, huh?
Yeah, I'd like to see it though. I love
Yeah,
Jackie
I would too.
Wilson. He was amazing. He had the first hit on Motown. Reed
I
Petit.
didn't know that.
Yeah, he and Barry Gordy wrote that song. That was their first hit. It was on Gordy Records, Reed Petit. That was
I
their
didn't
only
know that.
record before Motown. Yeah.
Man, see,
My mother
Yeah.
told me she used to see him. You know, he used to, Detroit and Toledo right there. So
Yeah.
they used to come down to play Detroit and then come down to Toledo. So, when she was a young girl, she used to go see Jackie Wilson, And back in those days, all the male artists had heavy makeup on.
right.
Because they wanted to make them look a little more feminine so as not to scare the white women.
Oh man, my mom told me the story. So back in the day, you go to the movie theater, you can get these live shows. So you go to the movie theater, they might play some cartoons, something like that. Then they have live shows, and various artists would play there. So my mom told me her and her girlfriend got a front seat, see Johnny Mathis, and then they used to put the heavy pancake makeup on that he had, and I guess they realized that he was more effeminate than they thought, and started to cry. And they weren't crying over the fact that he was singing; they were crying over the fact that they realized that he was homosexual.
Right.
But that broke their heart. But it still is the fact that you had those type of performances back in the day. Going back to what I said about Gregory Hines. When Gregory Hines was growing up, his idol was Sammy Davis Jr.
Right.
And so he would go see Sammy perform live, and Sammy sung, danced, did impressions, played 7 instruments. I mean, which was Sammy Davis show? You got a show.
You got a whole show. Prince is another genius.
Mm-hmm.
Little Richard, all of those people created something that never existed before.
That's true.
And everybody else is, riding off of that.
Yep.
Need some more originality here. Put some talent in my headphones.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nice to know that they had those type of influences. So when I look at Prince in the early days, you do see Jimi Hendrix in the influence that he had. Even Sly Stone, who wrote, he lost recently. Same thing.
Brown.
See that again?
And James Brown.
James Brown, yes.
Yeah, I mean, James Brown, he doesn't get enough credit. He changed the whole world.
He did change the whole game completely. Yes, he did.
Him and Bootsy, they put it on that Ohio Valley funk. You can't, the land of funk.
Hey, look, let me tell you something about some funk real quick.
Cincinnati, but they got it.
Oh, man. I was approached by an up-and-coming syndicated place in this syndicated company. What was it? Oh, hell, what's the name of it real quick? Having a brain fart. Matrix. It was Matrix Media. And Matrix Media had approached me about doing a talk show syndicated. So I had to come in and we talked for a little bit, and then we did a test show. So the test show, I interviewed Bootsy Collins. For the test show, about 45 minutes to see how it sounded during the interview. And so when I interviewed Bootsy, I interviewed him and I asked, what was it like working with James Brown and George Clinton? Well, that had to be like night and day. So he told me working with James Brown was working with the strict uncle. You had to be here on time. Clothes got to be pressed. Your haircut got to be cut. If not, you dock $5. If you're a minute late, you're docked.
Yep.
Working with George was the cool uncle you smoke weed with.
Yep.
He thanked George for bringing out his creativity. Yeah.
And George was kind of like Sly. They just kind of like a psychedelic funk thing. They took it to someplace else, but had world-class musicians, and they once again kept it on the one. On the one,
that's right. That one beat. It's It's amazing. I think again when you look at the dynamic of music evolution to where we are now to where we are from where we were to where we are now, it's you can always go back. So like I said, for Spotify or anything else you got to go back in the time, it's always there. Like we lost Walter Scott
Hmm.
recently.
Yeah.
Broke my heart because that group, man, please, the Whispers.
Yeah. The Whispers are
Yeah.
kind of like the like Frankie Beverly and Maze. You know, Maze's favorite. You always they're like those cool ass uncles that you just think are
Yes.
gonna be there forever.
Yeah.
You know, but can't be here forever. But
I
they
know.
just a wonderful legacy, and they were
Yes.
just really great people.
Thank God they came our way.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. And
Man,
they didn't try to pander to catch a wider audience and crossover. They just did their stuff,
they
and
did.
we appreciated it. You know, there's 35 million or so black people in this country. We got enough to support ourselves. We just got to do it.
Yeah. No, true words never been spoken. This has been more than fun. Like I said before, Doc, I gotta have you back on if you have the time because it's a wealth of information, and then people appreciate it. I know I do. And so when I mention about you coming on the show, people want to come back and hear you. Like I said before, like my man O said, gotta come back to Chicago, man, because we miss you.
Yeah, well, I miss you guys too. But I'm I'm in and out of there. But you know, we'll see what happens.
Looking forward to seeing you again in person one day, man. Look, before I get you out of here, always the question I ask of my guests: if you can invite 4 people
Mm.
to dinner, alive or not, who would they be and why?
Did I say Louis Armstrong the last time?
You can say it again if you want.
Yeah, I'd like to. I would love to have met him because I know 2 people that met him, and they like years apart. Like one was a little girl
Mhm.
when she met him, and when I met her, she was in her 90s.
Mm,
The other one was probably in her maybe 50s
yeah.
when I met her, and she had met him when she was young, and they both said he was magical. That's the words they used to describe him. They don't know each other. These women didn't know each other. They were just like, and just his volume of work, his body of work, and his integrity, and his understanding of the equation would be very rewarding. I would
Mhm.
love to talk to him
Yes.
about that. I don't know who the other 4 would be. Um, Walter, Roger Wilkins, the late Roger Wilkins, who was in the Kennedy administration,
Mm,
JFK. He was oh man, brilliant guy. I like these cats that can make complex things um, simple.
mhm.
Uh, they didn't like to have him on shows to interview because he would break it down, and it would be undisputable. I used to like that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you somebody you probably wouldn't expect me to be interested in, and that's the guy who used to host the uh, public television show. A really conservative guy that used to sit sideways in the chair. What was his name? He got in a really great debate with the black writer. What's his name? Man, I can't think of anybody's name right now. I'm talking about the famous black writer, uh, little guy. He's Maya Angelou era. He
Male or female?
male.
Male?
Yes,
Uh,
James
James
Baldwin.
Baldwin?
Yes, and this guy and James Baldwin had a great debate one time on public television. It's a classic
Oh,
because
cool. I gotta find it.
oh, you got to find it. What's his name? Oh, God, I can't think of his name. Older white guy.
Oh,
Really,
William F. Buckley or something like
William F.
that?
Buckley. I loved to watch William F. Buckley.
Got
And I
it.
liked him religiously when I was a kid because of his vocabulary. I loved his use of words.
That's cool.
I like words. I like
Yeah.
dialects and that kind of stuff. And he had his command. It. I would write things down and go look them up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but him and Baldwin, that's a classic right there.
I gotta check it out.
That's 3. And who else? Let's see. We got Buckley. We got Wilkins. We got Pops.
Now Wilkins. Now who's Wilkins? You mentioned who's that?
Well, Roger Wilkins is the guy.
Roger Wilkins again. Right. So you got the 3. Right. So you got Roger Wilkins. You got Pops, and you got Buckley.
I wouldn't mind meeting Sade.
Oh, okay.
That would be an interesting conversation.
That would be.
Yeah, because she's she writes some interesting stuff. I like her music. I like the kind of the lyrics. She doesn't waste her talent writing silly stuff. She has something to say.
I haven't heard anything controversial from her over these years. She's been very low key.
Yeah, she stays out of that. She lives in Spain, I think.
Okay.
Just living her life. She keeps threatening to put out one more album, one more tour, but she doesn't have to.
No, she don't have to. Her body work is tight, but she did one more tour,
sold
out.
Oh,
sold
yeah.
out. You can't even get it.
This I just went to see Gladys Knight, Stephanie Mills, and Shaka Khan recently in Baltimore.
Oh, the Diva tour.
Oh man, everybody was sounding wonderful. Wonderful. It was a great show.
And was it 3 or 4 of them?
It was 3 on this one. Well, when they come back to DC in October, I think they're going to add Patty.
Okay.
Yeah, I think some dates say had 4 and some dates say had 2. But it was wonderful.
Man, it had to be great.
Yeah, I go see live music all the time. I still love to see live music. Listen to music. I mean, that's what I do. That's me. That's music's my religion.
Nothing wrong with that. Amen and women. Oscar says this interview should be on V103 in Chicago for the listening audience. They don't want this.
Oh no, they didn't have to make it a podcast. Put it online. Yeah, because they gotta have time to run their commercials.
Of course, that's right. You better run commercials. Oh my God.
No one hear us talking. They gotta run them commercials.
You mentioned about it before, Max. Before we part company, even like now, I can't listen to terrestrial radio. I'm sorry, I love it. Came from there, but I can't listen to because I come from obviously news and talk. So when the news program comes on, and it's not the fault of the person who's anchoring it, but it's just the format. I'm so and so for V103 News. There was a car accident on North Side Chicago. 2 people were injured. This is brought to you by Arm & Hammer. They do one story.
Then you got to break.
And go right to their break. I'm like, you can't even do news these days, man. Everything is so, compartmentalized.
Yeah, I mean, they've turned it into commercials disguised as entertainment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But there's some still around. We just working with a station in Champaign or Urbana.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Illinois Soul, and it is, man, they got that.
I remember he's promoting that. I remember that. Yeah,
that was wonderful. They have a great team working with our former promotions executive over at V103. Now she's down there, Jill Clements. She's running the station. That thing sounds. She took all of that she learned and applied it, and it sounds like what V103 used to sound like.
That's amazing.
But current,
Current, yeah.
The current music. But it sounds wonderful. And, there's a few of them around, but they're independents. It's hard for independent stations to make money because if I'm a buyer, advertising buyer in New York, I don't know anything about the market. I'm 12 years old. I'm somebody's nephew. I have no relationship with that market at that station. I'm just buying numbers.
Right.
If I come to you and I say I got 5 stations and we have a 25 share, and then I come to you and say I got 1 station and we got a 5 share, who are you gonna buy? Who are you gonna give most of your money to?
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
That's what commerce is killing the radio star.
Yeah, it's like the video killed the radio star back in the day. It's always like receptacle. It always comes back full throttle. Real quick, let's see. Barbara Jean typed, I always share the broadcast. You can always tag individuals. Well, that's true too. And it's always good, like I said before, about going back to what Max said about content. Content is key. So it's a matter of who gravitate towards what. But like I said, Max, always, this has been more than great. I always appreciate our conversations, Doctor. Love you more. More information about you. Where can people find you at, sir?
I'm on all the socials, Maxx Myrick with 2 X's, MaxxMyrick.
Man, great stuff. Do me a favor, hang on one sec before we reconnect. So do me a favor, hang on in the zone. And once again, publicly, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Max.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you all the time. Hang in there. Hang right there. So Maxx Myrick, once again, extraordinary, not just programmer, or extraordinary individual. I learn a lot from the brother every time we connect. And one brother, like I said before, every time I mention about Max coming on, people like, okay, I got to go check it out. So that's the energy he continues to bring. Once again, thank you, Maxx Myrick. And for those of you who follow me, Friday will be Baseline, same time, 5 p.m. on the East Coast, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. West Coast time. Continue to be safe, continue to be sound, continue to be healthy, and most importantly, above anything else, continue to be loved. Long live the peace, long live the funk, more power to you. Always imparting with all of you. Keep your head up. Take care. See you Friday.